attending tonight. We're here for the information session to provide voters in electoral area H with some information for them to consider with their upcoming vote that they have on this bylaw. So we're here to help provide some information and ask some questions regarding to that. I'm Eric Stout. I'm the manager of building and bylaw for the Regional District Central Kootenay. On my right is Sangeeta Sudani, who's the General Manager of Development Services. On my left is Angela Loud, who's our Deputy Corporate Officer. So I'm going to get the presentation going, and once we're done the dog section, we'll have a brief time for a Q&A on the bylaw, and then after that, we're going to move into some information from Angela on the absent vote. So, dangerous and aggressive dog control service area H. Aggressive dogs at large in the Slocan Valley was identified as an issue for the community. As a result of the direction of the Board of Directors, the RDCK conducted a survey of electoral area H residents in early 2020 regarding public interest in adopting a dog control bylaw in their area. 692 mail responses and 210 online responses were received for a combined response rate of 40% of the population. Of those who responded, 53% supported a dog control bylaw in electoral area H. As a result of the survey, the board directed staff to prepare a service case analysis on the implications of establishing a dog control bylaw for the entirety of the electoral area H. Here's some stats regarding queries that we have received via the online complaint survey, phone calls, from spring of 2024 to September 2025. And if you can't see on here, you can see that in area H, over that time period, we received 36 queries. And when I use the word queries, complaints are allegations, okay? They're allegations until there's an investigation. Without a service, we don't have an investigation occurring. So just for clarity on the stats, these are based off of queries for the area. Here's an example of other areas in the RDCK where there is a dog control bylaw and where there is no dog control bylaw. So the darker color is areas where we have a dog control bylaw, and it shows the volume of complaints that we get. And the lighter color shows the areas based on the complaints we get in those areas where there is no dog control service. And just also with dog control, this is not loose dogs, this is not barking dogs, this is specifically for dangerous and aggressive dogs. So, dangerous and aggressive dog control. What is considered an aggressive dog? Any dog which, without provocation, has displayed aggressive behavior toward another person, dog, or animal. Any dog which, without provocation, has a known tendency or disposition to attack and or cause injury to other animals or humans without provocation. And any dog that has been deemed an aggressive dog by a dog control officer. And fourth, any dog declared a dangerous dog by a court in the province of BC. So, a combining aspect of this is Section 49 of the Community Charter, which defines a dangerous dog. So a dangerous dog is defined, and there's other aspects. This is a lengthy section of the Community Charter, so I encourage you to do your own research and Googling to get the full scope of Section 49, but here's a brief. Has killed or seriously injured a person. Has killed or seriously injured a domestic animal while in a public place or while on private property, other than property owned or occupied by the person responsible for the dog. Or an animal control officer has reasonable grounds to believe is likely to kill or seriously injure a person. So, questions? On the bottom, yes, go ahead there.
For the query stats that were collected, what platform did you collect those stats from, and does it also include direct emails to district staff?
It's, so some of that stuff has come through our job form. There's a percentage of it where If you don't have the service or the bylaw, there's kind of like a survey to fill out for that, and a percentage of those are phone calls and emails that staff has received. Yes? Oh.
What does it mean seriously injured the person?
Pardon me?
Seriously injured the person. What does that mean, serious? Bitten?
Yes?
That's serious.
That's serious, yes. Yes, in the back?
So, number one, it says if a dog is aggressive with another dog, that's seemingly going to open Pandora's box up to. So, what does that mean?
Another dog showing aggression towards another dog.
So that's what dogs sometimes do.
Well, it depends on the environment, and you have to respect, this is also, if it's happening on your own property with your own dogs, that's your business. But if somebody else, if your dog wanders onto your neighbor's property and is showing aggression to your dog, then there'll be, if we receive a complaint, there'll be an investigation.
So is that up for review, those terms? Or is that what you guys have determined? Is that going to be voted on?
This is how the bylaw is currently drafted. So the vote is whether or not this service is to be into Area H.
So there's no chance of amending that?
Not at this stage.
Nice.
Yes?
I'm still not very clear on the process. So, you have a problem, there's an incident, and a dog is aggressive with another dog. So, what's the procedure? Like, what happens next if this bylaw passes? You send out somebody from animal control or whatever you want to call him, and he investigates. How does he investigate? And what happens if he deems that the dog is dangerous? Like, what happens after that?
Well, first, okay, so I'll just start from the beginning here. So, it's a complaint-driven process, so somebody calls in and makes an allegation, okay? So at that stage, then there's an investigation based on the allegation, and, we're looking for facts. What facts do you have to prove this? Like, do you have video? Do you have photos to support your allegation? Once that is determined, then there's that aggressive section. So a dog contractor who's appointed as an officer goes out and does their investigation, and they make a determination whether or not that dog fits the category defined in the bylaw as being aggressive. The dangerous portion is kind of a much lengthier process in front of the courts.
Okay,
Yes.
so then,
What's the pre-existing law already in there?
Pardon me?
What's the pre-existing law? Where do we stand right now with this for aggressive dogs?
Well, right now, the RCMP receives 20% of their calls go to them because we don't have any service to respond to any of these calls. So the RDCK has nothing to essentially act on once we get a complaint.
In case of an incident and it's a bad incident, somebody gets hurt, does the police need to be called?
At times they can be involved, yes.
So both the bylaw and the police would need to attend?
It depends on the situation.
So why have a bylaw if the police still has to attend?
Well, I'll just speak for the officer, because last night he informed us quite nicely that they don't have capacity for that, and they have much bigger fish to fry, essentially, in a lot of cases.
So they have the authority under the Community Charter Section 49 on dealing with dangerous dogs, just like our dog control officer would have. But because there is no bylaw in place, there is no mechanism, because these kinds of incidents end up in civil court. There's no mechanism. If somebody injures if a dog injures a human, there's no mechanism to deal with that through any other court except the civil court. And the regional district, if there was a dog control service in place, would then proceed with that, proceed with taking action against that incident, against that dog owner. Specifically, it's not the dog, but sometimes these dogs, aggressive dogs are, maybe running at large or doing whatever. They're not controlled, and those incidents happen more often. What I'm trying to say, and I'm losing my train of thought, apologies, but the bylaw allows for this matter to go to civic court, and But otherwise, all the RCMP can do is warn, or
Like, what my
they
cons-
can't do.
My concern is when you're in the middle of the incident. I mean, I know we can do court and suing and all that afterwards, but when you're in the middle of an incident, the police is called, you've got this rabid dog there.
Yeah.
And let's say this were to happen like outside the door right now, what would happen?
I would invite Sheldon, the RCMP officer, to come and speak to that, or from where you are.
Yeah, I can put it front there. I'm Sheldon, Constable Bird. Some of you know me, some of you don't. So usually if that was the case, man, like obviously like we're gonna attend, right? Like if someone's like, we're gonna attend if something like that happens with the safety factors there. So that's what we do in that instance. Kind of to touch on the community charter, Walter will touch on it a little bit later. But in 2017, 2018, before my time here, they had a file with a pretty serious incident. And they had gone by the way of the community charter, section 49, to try to deem this dog dangerous and go to Crown Council. Crown Council came back and informed the RCMP that without a bylaw framework in place, they weren't able to actually proceed in a criminal matter without having a bylaw in place. And I believe Walter had actually went up the chain and went to the Attorney General of BC to try to see if that was the case, and that's the same messaging he got as well. And as of recently, like I've been here since 2023, and I talked to Crown about this, like, yeah, I understand we have power under Section 49, but if we forward a file of something of serious magnitude or injury to somebody, is this going to be entertained? And they said, without a bylaw, we still can't do anything. So that's the reality of our situation. Like, we're not going to avoid the call, obviously. Like, we're going to do our best to try to diffuse the situation and try to be amicable and have people, like, you know, take care of their dog, right?
So that's what you're doing today. If something happened
Correct,
today,
yeah,
you're
yeah.
not going to ignore it.
No, exactly. And I mean,
Right.
And you might not even get there in time.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. Yeah, it depends. Like, absolutely. Like, we can be at Summit Lake when the call comes in, and we may not be here, right? So in time, and I'll be honest, that tends to be what the most of the cases are, and it's frustrating for our standpoint too. We want to like be there in a quick matter, but obviously we can't come lights and sirens for a, you know, aggressive dog unless someone is actively being attacked. And that's a little different, right? Our risk assessment goes up, and we would want to respond to that in an immediate fashion.
So would you have the capability to catch the dog and?
So no, so we don't have leashes. We don't have like I don't know what the proper term is, but you know, like when you have like an SPCA, like the pole with the loop on the end. Like I don't have those means. And the one thing that we've ran into is like a couple times we've been able to take the dogs like to Castlegar here and there. But the issue is let's say the dog, we're able to convince it to get in the vehicle, and we can take it to a pound. There's fees associated to that. Like we don't have food, we don't have like an ability to store that dog and take care of that dog. And that's the issue that we ran into is like a big hurdle is like, okay, if we do get the dog, what do we do with this now? Because like the SPCA, you know, down in Castlegar, doesn't take the dogs from us, right? Usually we have to reach out to somebody that's like, there's a lady in the cust that for a while would take a dog for us temporarily, but it's a bit of a hurdle for us. Like, great, we have the dog, but what do we do with it, right?
But, sorry for monopolizing.
No.
Let's say there is a bylaw in and you are still called, would you transfer the call over to bylaw or would you attend?
It would depend on the incident. Like, obviously, like I'm not going to avoid it, look the other way. Like, if I can catch that dog and wrangle it and get it in control, I will. But if not, like I may do the initial investigation and then pass the information on to the RDCK for like follow up with it and determine what they have to do. Because what happens is, let's say the incident is founded in facts and the person is dangerous, then RDCK has to make an application to the courts under the section 49 of the community charter. And there's a bunch of criteria like repetition, the definition of what a dangerous dog is, etc.
But that's after the fact.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
like right in the now and then, because if you have to call the bylaw officer, he might be like
Yeah, or it might be a weekend even,
300
right?
miles or kilometers away.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we do what we can within our capacity.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like we're not trained animal like officers, so we don't have even the tools even to manage it, right? And it'd be no different if we were in a city. Like the bylaw tends to respond first to try to wrangle a dog because they usually have some type of animal control officer that has the tools and training, right? So.
Yeah, and if someone's injured, first responders will be there, RCMP will be there, and then we will be notified of the incident. And if this bylaw passes, the bylaw allows for us to then take on the investigation and deal with, bring in application to court, and then also, if the dog is, still intact, it needs to be housed somewhere, so we have the ability to kennel it, and the service would pay for all that. And in some circumstances, we can recover the cost. It depends on the situation. But it's really about the injured party and how they can then, make it right for themselves with this dog that may be out at large. Well, that's what I was trying to say. Maybe wandering the street and nobody knows whose dog it is. And in that case, there's no one to sue or go after. But if the dog's owner is known, then they can actually take it forward as a civil matter.
In the back there? Yeah.
I just wonder, officer, how many calls have you attended in the last 3 years?
I don't have an exact number, I'll be honest.
Ballpark.
Yeah, I'd say we do about 20%. So in a year, on average, the detachment has about 600 to 650 calls. So I'd say anywhere between 90 and 100 calls a year. I just happened to review some files tonight before I came down, and I had 4 dog complaints for aggressive dogs just this week alone in the last 5 days. So some weeks we get 4 calls, some weeks we get 1. It just depends, but on average, I'd say in a year, probably about 90 to 100 calls.
So it's your responsibility to attend that call, right?
Yes, because it's, yeah.
So how is a bylaw going to prevent that?
Question for RCK.
It doesn't prevent it, it assists in the process of dealing with that dangerous dog owner and dealing with it in the civil courts. So the RCMP, as was explained, they can't take that matter under section 49 to the courts without the court saying you need a bylaw in place for that application to be put forward.
Okay. I'd like to have better information personally on how the other areas in the RDCK and RDKB are handling this issue of requiring, in your words, a bylaw.
Well, we're not here to say that this bylaw is required. That will be your decision as the voter. We're here to present the facts about the bylaw.
Yeah.
The intention of this bylaw is just to deal with dangerous and aggressive dogs. I'll take this lady's question in the front.
If the function of the police is to be the bridge between the complaining person and the courts, why don't we simply get a bylaw to give you the power to do the process of making the whole process happen? The police have weapons. We've run into all sorts of situations here, especially in the Winlaw area, with vicious dogs. Even as a farm up the road, and we've had these protected dogs. I was gagged up a few years ago, by four of these huge white animal protecting dogs. And I was just going on the trail, and those dogs came roaring down, and if I hadn't been very aggressive against them myself, I would have been taken down by those dogs. I called the police, and they went and talked to the owners, and the owner took measures then to get better fencing, GPS collars, whatever. But why do we need a bylaw to hire a middle person to do the court proceedings? Why can't we just get a bylaw passed so that the police have the power to do this?
So I don't create laws, right? We just have to interpret them and then enforce the laws, right? Can you hear me okay?
I can't hear.
Sorry, I was just saying,
the whole setup here today is difficult because I can hardly hear what's being said, and perhaps there are other people in the audience in the same position. We should have had a mic here, so everything's really clear.
Yeah, I'll do my best to speak up. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
You talk very fast.
Little bit slower.
Sorry guys, I'll slow down. Sorry, you were asking about why isn't there a bylaw in place to allow us to not be the middleman?
Yes, to do that whole process, so that it does then move forward into court. Why do we need a whole department? And I'm not putting the question to you, obviously, it's to the people that are here in this meeting. But for many of us, especially seniors, we're looking at our taxes go up, I went through my tax file today before coming to this meeting. My taxes more than doubled in 5 years. More than doubled, not barely doubled, but doubled, almost a double and a half in 5
Less
years.
services.
So most of the people, you know, I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but I know for people in the seniors' positions who are on limited incomes, I mean, the thought of another bureaucracy, another agency being created here in order to deal with this when we have a competent police force who could, if you're already responding to these calls, perhaps, and I know that you can't answer that, but why don't we move toward getting a bylaw that empowers the police to do this job?
Okay.
So I can touch a little bit. So like we as the police, like we have to be objective and everything, especially in this meeting too, right? Like I'm objective. I have no skin in the game, right? I'm just here to answer some questions, but I can't recommend like, hey Walter, you should create this law because it'd be in the interest of me, right? I can't do that.
No, of course not.
I mean, at the end of the day, it would be up to the RDCK to decide if there's a bylaw in place where we could have the authority to act on the behalf to enforce the bylaw. Right now, there's only the community charter, which limits us, you know, what we can do in a criminal proceeding, right? Whether that's criminal negligence or assault, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'll let them kind of touch on the rest.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I think that's a very big question that needs to be opened before we move into this whole process of all of a sudden we have a whole other bureaucratic position that's opened up with more tax money, our taxes going up yet again. It's not happy making, this whole thing.
I'll just speak to that just a little bit and then I'll move to you in 1 second. Is that at the end of the day, your tax dollars are paying for him.
Well, of
So,
course.
no, hold on, let me finish.
Yes.
Let me finish, okay? So, if there's more activity for them, is that more bodies for them? In the back, please.
I'd just like to say that was a valuable question, what she had to say, but my sticking point is, I can understand, obviously violence against any human, but why the decision to make it so complicated to have dogs that might be aggressive with other dogs? Why is this an issue with the RDCK? Has that been an issue? Have been people calling in because dogs have been fighting? Is that an issue?
I can speak to vet bills.
So, you know, there's a wide range of complaints we see at times with people calling with dog fights or my dog was attacked. So there's a wide variety all over the RDC, and we see this all the time. And it's a matter of having a tool to be able to prevent it from trying to happen the next time. I want you to picture a dog somebody getting bitten by a dog. If nothing happens, that dog could do it again, and again, and again.
I'm not talking about humans, I'm talking about other...
It's the same thing, because the dog that's attacked, if your dog attacks your neighbor's dog, that's their dog personal property, and that's their dog. So that's kind of that aggression is no, that aggression towards another dog how is it any different to that aggression being shown towards a human?
They're included in the Family Law Act now, companion animals. So as far as the law is concerned, that's your neighbor's family member.
Yes, sir.
Didn't we hire a bylaw officer a few years back to look after, to deal with this stuff?
No.
Well, what does the bylaw officer do?
There is no
There is no bylaw for dog control service in Area H.
Well, we have a bylaw officer, don't we?
They deal with other bylaws that are prevalent in Area H.
So they can't take this over too? We have to hire a whole bunch more people, do a whole bunch more stuff? They're so busy in there?
Well, it's a service establishment body, because this is narrowed down just to dangerous and aggressive dogs. Other areas, they have barking, loose dogs, things of that nature. This is just for the dangerous, aggressive dogs.
So they can deal with a barking dog, but they can't deal with a dangerous dog. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
Specialty people, is that what you're saying?
without a service, we can't do that in this area. We can't do anything without the service being voted upon by the members of the community. Yes?
I have a question. So are you from the Cusp Detachment?
No, I'm from New Denver here.
or I mean New Denver.
Yeah.
So the stats that you're talking about for calls, that's just for that detachment.
So yeah, so from Summit Lake to Pedro Creek, and then everything east and west, obviously.
So then everything south of there in Area H, those would be additional calls that would go to the Nelson detachment?
Yeah, Nelsonville, correct.
So it's quite possible there's a significant higher number of calls, dog-related calls for the entire area that's not captured in
Yeah,
the
correct.
reporting?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because we're separated, so our statistics are different.
Although we do have dog control service in area, like, not from H, but in area E, which is adjacent, and, F and E, they kind of sit kind of in parallel to each other. So
We're gonna
we do
switch-
have dog control service.
We're going to switch to the voting portion in a second, so there's a few more questions on this.
I have a question for you. Suppose you had about 20% and you investigated. Was some of this neighbors just getting in fights with the other neighbor over roaming dogs when you investigated? What actually happened when you investigated those complaints?
So sometimes the complaints are rooted in mental health. So people have mental health issues. So what they're reporting isn't factual. Sometimes it's wandering dogs on their property and they're fearful for their safety of their livestock and themselves or their own animals. Other times it's been a legitimate, like a mother and daughter were bit in the, I apologize, the park by Winlaw Bridge there where everyone walks. Yeah, like there's a lot that goes on in there. And on the back road too, and then in the kind of community of Slocan as well. So the results of the investigation are varied.
Okay, so you don't really have the statistics on which dogs were actually really dangerous? And
Well,
which
we're able
ones-
to identify the owner, identify the dogs, and most people are fantastic to deal with.
Right.
And we're able to identify, and then we have a conversation, an education piece about civil liability, that this is someone's property, right? That the animals are property or whatever, and then talk about like, hey, if your dog is chasing livestock or whatever, like they have powers in the livestock act to protect their animals and their property.
Or you don't actually have, for those 20 different things, you haven't got it categorized. That this was a mental health issue and it wasn't real. This was roaming dogs. This was...
Yeah,
you don't
it's
really-
it's a variance between aggressive, roaming dogs, loose dogs. There's a bit.
Right.
Yeah.
One more question.
I have a question.
Okay, go.
Your current
Then we'll get you.
bylaw officer that you have for barking dogs and stuff like that, is that a full-time position or a part-time position?
Well, so the way it works is bylaw officers are assigned an electoral area. So any bylaw that's been adopted in that area or has a service, they'll deal with unsightly, they'll deal with planning land use, they'll deal with barking dogs if that service and bylaw is in place there. So they have a wide variety of essentially complaints that they deal with in various bylaws.
Is it a full-time position or a part-time? You didn't answer my question. Are you a
They're full-time.
position?
No. I think you're asking about a dog control
I'm
officer.
asking if the bylaw officer that you currently have
Yes.
for barking dogs and other things
Oh.
of the area,
Okay.
is it a full-time position or a part-time position?
They are contract officers, so they're hired on a contract to respond to complaints as they come in. They're not
Per
full-time.
complaint. Wouldn't it make sense to create that in a position that they're already getting funded? So why not include that as a contract for this situation?
The issue with that is we don't have a kennel facility at the RDCK to contain a dog. And we don't have, any of our bylaw officers are trained to deal with animal control. We could hire an animal control specific bylaw officer that could assist in those types of incidents. But what Eric, and I misunderstood your question initially, what Eric is saying, we have some full-time bylaw officers that deal with a whole bunch of bylaw infractions, from zoning to barking dogs. But we also have dog control contractors who are trained as dog control people. They have the equipment to grab the dogs. They may even have a kennel facility, which most of them do, and they can house the dog that maybe is dangerous until we do an investigation to identify the owner and then take steps to address the person who's been address the issues that the person who's been injured addressed through the civil courts.
I was just curious, because I've worked in healthcare, and when more work came, the frontline staff did the more work. We didn't get more staff coming. We had to get more work. So I just wondered if it was full-time or part-time, that's all.
Yeah, the bylaw officers are full-time, the dog control officers are part-time. They don't work all the time. They're only responding to complaints. That's our process. You only respond to complaints.
One more question.
Yeah, we live on Spokane River Road and property, the road cuts our property now for about 3/4 of a kilometer, and so the river's on one side. And so I see a lot of traffic, people cycling and dogs on leashes. And you use the word provoke. So I've seen lots of cases where people are floating down the river, the dogs are running the shoreline. My dogs can see him coming from 3/4 of a kilometer away. So now they're ready for this dog when he gets there. Things like that, lucky I was home, that's one of the situations, and I have to manage to keep my dogs off. But if something happens to that guy's dog that's running down the river, is that considered provoke?
Well, what do you mean by something happened?
Well, my dog would attack that dog. He's on my property, running the riverbank, because they're floating down the river, but the dog is running loose down the riverbank.
I've seen them do that.
It's a good question. No, I appreciate that question. I think that when an investigation occurs, I think there's a lot of those factors are considered as far as, like what you're saying, your dogs have been contained on your property, and then somebody else's dog is coming to your property. I think that the officer at that time would weigh that into consideration.
Another situation I had, the fellow didn't see me, I was by the barn, but the dog was just laying by the road. Every time somebody goes by, she lays there and barks. She's afraid of strangers. She won't go out on the road after a stranger. So this guy got annoyed with him barking as he was cycling up the hill, and all of a sudden he got close enough there and he just veers off into the grass and just starts pedaling, chasing the dog. So I walk over and I seen this and I go, hey buddy, I said, that dog's going to remember you for the rest of your life. Next time you go by, she'll be waiting for you, and she shouldn't be barking you, she's annoying me, So is that a provoke?
I would probably,
I just want to know, is that considered provoke? Because I see this kind of thing.
Let's just take, if that scenario where that dog ran up and was trying to bite that gentleman on his bike in the ankle, that would be provocation. A barking dog just kind of casually, barking, I don't think that would hit the target in my opinion.
But if he drove off the road into my field to chase the dog, she bit him.
He did what?
He drove her his side bicycle right off the road and into the grass to chase the dog.
On your property?
On my property.
Well,
So that's provoke. She would provoke.
well, that's a human provoking an animal?
Yes.
I don't think that's the intent of the bylaw.
No, but if she bit him.
If she bit him? Well, I think we're getting into a lot of what ifs here.
No,
I know what you're saying, and I think that's probably more of an RCMP matter for the Trespassing Act, of somebody coming onto your property and getting into having to, defending yourself. So I would probably wouldn't mind Sheldon's comment on that.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand what you're saying. I would think if your dog's on your property, it's protecting the property, and it has the right to do so, right?
Yeah.
So now if they're not on the property, if people driving down the road with their dogs half hanging out the window, and they're barking like crazy, so my dogs are barking back at this dog, they slow down and they go just the right speed so my dog can keep up with them. Their dog's hanging out on the barking, my dog's running barking back. If they just drove by at normal speed, my dogs were involved with them, because they slow right down and my dogs can catch up and run beside them. Is that provocation?
Doesn't sound like aggression to me, so yeah.
The bylaw is about aggressive dogs that bite other dogs or bite humans. The provocation you're talking about, it seems like the bicycles situation, that individual went on your property, that was trespass, and provoked your dog and got bitten. If that person complained to us, we would investigate, and in the process we go, oh, you went on their property illegally, you provoked their dog. So that would be the conclusion of that investigation. But if your dog went chasing after the bicyclist on the road and bit that bicyclist and they were injured, that would be an aggressive dog situation. So that's how it works.
Okay, I'll take one more and then we have to get on to the voting section here.
Bottom line, your dog is on your own property, guarding your possessions, your property. it is provoked by a trespasser or another dog. How can our dog be held responsible for doing something on our own property because it's our guard dog?
I think Sandy just touched on
I
it.
just explained that. If it's on your property and your dog was the one provoked, in the investigation, we would conclude that was the situation. Your dog was doing the dog's duty, protecting your property.
Last one, lady.
Correct me if I'm wrong, this bylaw sounds like it does not have anything to do with me walking through the nature park in my neighborhood, around the roads or whatever, and being fearful of the dogs that live on those roads and that come to those places. So I've stopped walking basically to the places I once did because of aggressive dogs. So, and I don't think this bylaw has anything to do with personal safety when we're out walking, does it?
Well,
Yes. So the bylaw has two things. The aggressive dog, if there was a dog that aggressively came after you, like this lady explained, and a complaint was received either at the RCMP or to us, the RCMP would send the complaint to us. If this bylaw existed in H, then we would register that dog as an aggressive dog. We would talk to the owner and say, we've had one complaint, maybe multiple complaints, and that dog would be registered as an aggressive dog. We would then tell the property owner the process by which they can manage that dog. You know, keep it fenced in, or keep it whatever. We would be in the process of educating. But let's say that aggressive dog eventually bit somebody. Now because we've got it registered, we have more evidence and information to then, if that injured person wants to take this matter to civil court, to work with that and go to civil court and get, you know, what is it called, retribution for the injury that the person suffered.
So my question, thank you, and I understand that part, but maybe I didn't read my question quite right. But our personal safety when we're out walking, the feeling of our personal, you know, that we have personal safety when we're on the trails. We don't have, and so to go for a bike ride or go for a walk in my neighborhood on the bike trails is dangerous.
So
And
are
so
you
we
aware
don't go.
So are you aware of who those dogs are? If this bylaw was adopted and you are the voter and you would decide that, if this bylaw was adopted and you knew who those dogs were, you could right away, and we anticipate that will probably happen if the bylaw gets adopted, we will get a bunch of complaints. People like you who are afraid to go on a trail because they've experienced incidents and are afraid to walk those trails, and they would report this person. So in that investigation, we would determine if that person with the dog is actually got aggressive dog.
Yeah.
And if they had an aggressive dog, we would register it. So that would be our process. It's very simple. And we would not be out patrolling. We only respond to complaints.
And as the officer mentioned, when it comes to going to the courts, one of the things they look at is repetition, right? Has this occurred before? Is this habitual? And that's kind of, so your comments directly regarding how you feel, you know, maybe over time, if the bylaw is adopted by the community, that those feelings maybe slowly go away.
Yeah, and I think it has a lot to do with the owners of the dogs as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, being mindful of time, Angela's going to, being mindful of time, please, at the end we'll have another opportunity.
Okay, there just was something in the engaged documents that were proposed that owners of registered aggressive dogs maybe they might have to actually contain or leash their dogs. Is that not correct?
That is correct.
Right, so then if that was happening, then it would reduce these incidences of being threatened
Correct.
around the public.
Yes.
Okay.
Moving on to another section here regarding the asset vote process, so please direct your attention to Angela.
Hi, my name is Angela. I am the Deputy Chief Elections Officer. I'm acting on behalf of Tom Buell, our Chief Elections Officer, who is unable to make it tonight. So I'm going to discuss the assent vote process that we are going to be going through, I believe, starting not next week, but the week after. So I'm going to go through these slides. Some of the information I'll be reading directly from the slides because it's legislation and it's hard to keep it up here, all of it. So I'm going to proceed now. Oh, I think I accidentally, sorry, I jumped a bunch of slides. That's not going to help anyone, is it?
Can I talk about a quick question? Are you going to talk about the money involved in this at some point of this meeting?
Yes, this is what this presentation is about. Okay.
So we are going to be going through in electoral area H the assent vote process. The board is required to seek the approval of the local government inspector and the electors prior to the adoption of a proposed service establishment bylaw. And this is part of our legislation in the Local Government Act, and this is from section 342, subsection 1. In this instance, that approval must be sought out through assent vote. And that is part of our Local Government Act, section 344, subsection 1. The assent vote is a referendum of eligible electors. For an assent vote to be successful, at least 50% of the participating eligible electors must agree to the proposed measures. So I'll be discussing when our advanced poll and additional advanced poll and general voting days are in a couple of slides, but I wanted to read out the question. So this is the question that you're going to see on the ballot when you come in to vote. Electoral Area H, Dangerous and Aggressive Dog Control Establishment Service Establishment Bylaw number 3066, 2025 will allow the regional district to establish a service for the regulation of dangerous and aggressive dogs in electoral area H and to establish a maximum annual allowable requisition not to exceed the greater of $109,741 or the amount resulting from a rate of 0.077 per 1,000 applied to the actual net taxable value of land and improvements in the service area. The question that's going to be proposed to all electors is, are you in favor of the regional district adopting electoral area H, Dangerous and Aggressive Dog Control Service Establishment Bylaw number 3066, 2025? And you will have the choice of yes or no. So I wanted to talk a little bit about who is eligible to vote. The eligible electors include resident electors and non-resident electors. So an eligible, it's a tongue twister for me here. Eligible resident electors are residents of electoral area H, are 18 years of age as of the general voting day, a Canadian citizen, a resident of British Columbia for at least 6 months immediately before the day of registration, and are not disqualified under the Local Government Act or any other enactment from voting in an election or assent vote, and not otherwise disqualified by law. If you live in Area H, you can vote in a provincial or federal election. You can vote in this assent vote. Yes, there we go. Our eligible non-resident electors. I'm going to read this out as well. Do not reside in electoral area H. Are registered owners of real property in electoral area H for at least 30 days before the day of registration. are 18 years of age as of the general voting day, are Canadian citizens, and are residents of British Columbia for at least 6 months immediately before the day of registration. Again, are not disqualified under the Local Government Act or any other enactment from voting in the election or assent vote, and not otherwise disqualified by law. The difference here with a non-resident compared to a resident elector is if there is multiple property owners on title of, if there are multiple property owners on title, only one person may participate in the vote, and the other owners must provide their consent. So, if there's multiple property owners, only one of the property owners can vote as a non-resident elector. If you have multiple properties and you're one owner, you can only vote on one of those properties. One person, one vote. That's the rule here. So when it comes to the assent vote process, we have the registered elector, we have the non-resident elector, and we also have the resident elector who's not on the provincial voters list. So when you come in to vote, and if you are not on the provincial voters list, you will be required to fill out a form 200M. And so when you fill out this form, you must provide identification, as well as this form will go to the province to then add you to that provincial voters list. So any of the forms for the resident elector go straight to the province after, and then are added to the list. If you're a non-resident elector and not currently registered, you can register at the polls on advance or general voting days. And again, this means signing a form. This is our Form 7-2. This stays within the regional district. You do have to provide identification as well. And if there are multiple property owners that own that property with you, you will then also have to fill out that Form 7-3. And so it's really important to be aware of these forms beforehand, because quite often when people come to the polls, they think that they can, if they're a non-resident elector, that they can vote on their multiple properties. If there is multiple owners, that they all get a vote. That is not the case here. It is one person for that non-resident elector that can vote with the consent of the other owners. And so I have so you'll see that there is a website down below here for the Area H, rdck.ca/Area H dogs. So if you go to that website, I have provided those forms already. You cannot hand them in right now. You would have to hand them in either if you're doing a mail-in ballot or if you're coming to vote on one of those voting days. You can't, we no longer can register them. You have to bring them in on those particular days or by mail-in ballot. And so I do suggest if there is, time constraints when you're voting, that these forms be filled out already. You have the proper identification ready so that when you do come to the polls, you're able to just come up, submit your form, show your identification, and then proceed to vote. So I always recommend, if you can, fill out those forms ahead of time to do that, but they do have to come that day. So this is kind of an example here. If you intend to register at the poll, so that's filling out any of those forms I just discussed, you have 3 options for identification. There is a comprehensive list on the Elections BC site, elections.bc.ca, and you just have to punch in the search to say voter ID. And we have listed a few of these examples. The list is longer than that. But option 1, you can provide one piece of identification, but it has to be from that list below. Or, sorry, that is on the Elections BC site. So an example of one piece of ID that you can bring is your driver's license, a BC identification card, a BC service card with the photo. It can't be without the photo. Or an issued government ID that includes your name, photo, and address. And you can also bring a certification of certificate of Indian status. Option 2 of these pieces of ID can be a BC care card, a BC service card with no photo, birth certificate, and so on. I do recommend going to the site and looking up this list yourself so that you're very aware when it comes to coming to the polls. We also have an option 3, which is identity can be vouched by another person. The voucher must prove that they are a registered voter, resident in the voter's electoral district, or a spouse, parent, grandparent, adult child, adult grandchild, or adult sibling of the voter, or a person with the authority to make personal care decisions for the voter. So there are different options. I do recommend taking a look at those options, or using this list that we've provided today to determine what type of pieces of identification you would bring. Our polling dates and locations are all listed here. So electoral area H has over 5,000 people. So legislatively, the Local Government Act identifies that we have to have an additional advance voting poll. So we're going to have 3 opportunities for electors to come and vote. The advance poll on May 20th is from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and will be at Knox Hall and Winlaw Community Hall. The additional advance poll on May 27th, again, the polls are open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and it's at the Hills Community Hall. I believe there's 2 community halls, and I think it is the 4428. All of the information in regards to these locations and their addresses are on the website with the link below there. The general voting day will be on May 30th, 8 till 8 p.m., Crescent Valley Hall, Knox Hall, and Winlaw Community Hall. If you cannot make any of these polls to vote, you can request from the RDCK a mail-in ballot, and that started as of May 1st. And so up until May 27th, we will take requests for mail-in ballots, and we will try to issue them out. Remember, if you're starting to get close to that May 27th deadline, and it has to be mailed out, you really got to consider how long it might take Canada Post to get that mail-in ballot to you. You must hand in your mail-in ballots before May 30th at 8 p.m. So if by 8 p.m., when we lock the doors to that assent vote and close all voting, if we do not have your mail-in ballot, you try to slip it under the door, we will not take it. But if you bring it into any of the polls, the election officials will take your mail-in ballot and we can put it into the mail-in ballot box, or it can be mailed to the office where we have a ballot box that it gets put into. And so we have up until the 27th, but I do really want everyone to understand that when you get close to that 27th date, there is potential that you might not be able to make that deadline because of Canada Post. You can drop it off at our office, you can mail it, or you can drop it off at any of the polling stations during the vote.
Why are there 3 voting?
Just wait 1 second,
Yeah,
please.
no, I'm gonna just finish here and then anyone can ask me questions. So if you have any more questions in regards to the voting process, both Tom and my information are here, as well as you can email elections@rdck.bc.ca. And we will help you. We can guide you through this process. We can help you understand if you have questions in regards to the assent vote process. What we cannot help you on is if you have questions in regards to the actual service. We are not the professionals here. We are not the bylaw department. And so we can't give those answers. We don't have that expertise. But what we do have the expertise on is the assent vote process. And so we can help you through that. And if we don't have the answer right away, we can find the answer. All right.
Yes, in the back.
I'd like to know in crystal clear language the cost per $100,000 of property value.
That is not a question for myself. I do not.
Well, somebody's got to know.
Just hold on a second.
I'm sorry. I am here for the assent vote process. I am not here to answer the taxation questions because that is not what I did not put together the taxation. I can't answer that question because I am not the expert.
Okay,
Nobody else.
Just 1 second, okay? 1:45. 1:77.
Okay. 1 second.
I can show you the question that's on the ballot.
Okay, so we see we have 0.077 per thousand. So that's essentially rounded up, maybe $8 per 100,000 of the value, to answer your question.
In the first year.
I'm paying for parks, and I'm paying for recreation, and we got none of those things happening.
Okay, that answers your question.
You want another?
Go ahead.
Yes.
So may I do want to add to that. That is the maximum. That is not necessarily what the service is going to cost. That is the maximum that this service can be charged.
Yes.
I'd like a little clarification. I didn't understand the question quite right. But you said if there's multiple owners of a property, only one person gets to vote?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so that was...
Whoa.
Okay. The other question is somebody that's living here that doesn't own property?
Sorry.
That's not correct, the first answer.
Can you say that again? If you live in electoral area H, and you can vote in the provincial and federal elections, you can vote on the assent vote. It is the non-resident electors that can only have one vote.
Okay, when you live here, do you have to own property? Because it's the property owners that are going to get nailed with this. If I'm living on a property, I can vote yes because it means nothing to me. I don't get charged, and yet, like in our position, we have 3 people. Myself and my son and his wife are all on the property. And you're telling me that we have one vote, and yet somebody that doesn't live here doesn't have to pay taxes on that property can vote? So that, to me, that doesn't make sense.
Sorry, you live on the property and own it.
I own the property, my son is part owner of the property, and my daughter.
And you live there.
We live there.
So you all can vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if you don't own property, you're still allowed to vote? Because that...
Renters are allowed to
So we get stuck paying for people that aren't paying taxes? We have to pick up the slack?
So
That's not right.
as a non-resident elector, So someone is renting your property and they live in electoral area H, they are allowed to vote. A non-resident elector can vote on their property, but they are allowed one vote. So, and if there's multiple owners, so if you had a renter that voted, and then there was 3 property owners that didn't live on the property but owned it, one of those 3 could vote.
So for clarification then, the 3 owners, the 3 owners of the property can vote?
And you live there, yes.
Yes, we live there.
Yeah, as long as you live in electoral area H, you're a resident from electoral area H, every member of your family who is over 18 and follows meets the criteria for a resident elector, you can vote.
But if it's only the landowners, the actual landowners, that are gonna get dinged with this tax.
Unfortunately, I do. So what the regional district follows is the Local Government Act. That is a provincial legislation that has been put together for these processes, for elections, for assent vote, for alternative approval processes. All of those are not, we don't make those requirements.
Well, I'm not saying that, but it just doesn't, common sense doesn't make sense when I get stuck paying. I get stuck paying, and somebody that isn't paying taxes on the property.
Most people just put it on the renter, okay, the cost of that. But your question is understood, but most people just put that on the rent. It's how it's recovered by the property owner.
And will the price keep going up?
Can we get another question?
Yeah. Is the price going to stay at that, or is it going to go up
So
year after year?
that is the maximum amount that we can.
Forever?
Let me finish. That's the maximum amount that we can requisition. We haven't yet, in any of the current dog control services, I believe, even hit that number, the maximum amount. Because we look to create efficiencies. We hire dog control officers who are trained, and we go through a request for proposal process. So we go out, we put this statement out about what we want in that dog control officer and what we expect, and we get bids. We then look at those bids. We go first we look at the price, then we look at the qualifications and capacity of this individual, if they can achieve the work that we're asking them to achieve. That amount is the highest we can tax, but that's not what we are seeking to do.
That's a hard time believing that. Once you got your foot in the door, there's no getting you out. Taxes never go down.
This is the way taxation
And we
works.
moved down here not to have more rules.
But
you get less.
I hear what you're saying, and I just want to clarify, we
hearing
do
what
not
you're saying.
tax to the maximum right away. It
Yes,
may happen if there are many incidents.
So, okay, you pay our taxes for the year in advance. You don't spend the 110,000 or whatever it is. Are you gonna refund us?
No, we do not tax for the full amount. We tax for the amount that the service costs. That amount is what, if this is approved, that amount is what is approved by the provincial what was it called? Individual that approves.
So we have to, no matter what, we have to take it to the ministry, and the inspector approves the bylaw once the electors have voted. Remember that this process, this assent vote process, is for the electors to vote. I am recommending that you all go out and vote during the assent vote process. This service establishment is not something that the RDCK has made up. This has come from multiple complaints. This has come from years. I think Walter has indicated since 2010, 16 years. So it's not taken lightly. It's not, the RDCK doesn't just push services. This is a service that has been talked about by community members and has been requested. There are surveys that have gone out. We are listening to what the community has said to this point, and now giving the opportunity for the assent vote so the community and the electors can all make that decision. That is a decision that is up to you. It is not up to the RDCK.
Yes.
So is the actual amount of taxation then put to the electorate based on the financial statements from the previous year?
So the calculation of that taxation amount is based on what we observe that could happen. So it's based on other services that we run and how much they cost to operate. But then we're in a larger area with a higher population, with more area to cover. So we take all of these things into consideration, plus kennel facilities, and the fact that the contractor would have to drive to location to address that aggressive or dangerous dog incident. So when we calculate not only what the cost of the contractor will be, but all the additional costs that come with that service operating. So that's what that amount is. So that's the requisition amount, the maximum. When we do our budget for the service, it'll be interesting to see if in the first few years, how much uptake there is for this service. And I explained it yesterday, but I anticipate it'll be a slow increase we'll hear about some complaints for a year or two, and then it'll peak when more people are aware the bylaw is in place, and then we'll get a lot more complaints. So it's likely, initially, we won't have that much cost for the service, but in subsequent years, we may have a higher cost. And it also depends on when we go to court on behalf of a resident who has been injured.
Okay, so
You got that recorded, I hope.
just to build on that question quickly, so then do you hold a slush fund to have, okay, so you don't accumulate year to year?
If there's surpluses, if there's surpluses where money has not been spent, that's in our financial plan. We bring that forward to the board, and the board can decide what to do with that surplus. So they may say, we want to put it into a reserve in case we have a big dangerous dog incident.
Right.
And we want to deal with it where they have to go to court, or they may say, give it back to, because I can't remember what the word is for the process, but they return it back in taxation, meaning your taxes in the following year would be less.
Okay, that's what I was asking, and then I just want to be clear, because I think some people don't understand that when there is a specific figure that goes into legislation, that figure is fixed into legislation unless the legislation changes. It's not just the regional district that can arbitrarily decide to change that figure because it's legislated.
Yeah, we have to go to this inspector of bylaws.
Yes.
And just to clarify on that point, so the $109,000, you just referenced the possibility that it might,
It's
with
the
some
maximum.
use, could peak over years. It's not going to go past that. That is the maximum.
Yes.
Do you happen to have a slide of your proposed budget that you could put up here for all of us to see? The one that adds up neatly to $109,741?
The service case analysis is in here, but we can't provide that information.
No, it would have been handy to have it there so everybody could see it.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of questions about that.
It was provided to the board, so it is in board meeting reports. And if you require it, you can find out where it's located in the website and send you a copy of the report, if that's what you desire.
Well, I got that cost here. I just thought that maybe everybody should see it as well.
Okay, yeah, I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm concerned, well, for me, I speak for myself, I'm concerned about things in the budget that's not making sense. And so I'm gonna ask a few questions. So like you have a dog pound here for 3 years and then it disappears from the expenses. So what gives?
So the intention of that is to start building a reserve for a pound, but we don't know what we're gonna get. Like, at this point, we're just assuming when we go out to RFP that we will find somebody who is a trained dog control officer and has the capacity to have a kennel facility. We're assuming that, but it could turn out that may not be the case. So that's a contingency built into the budget to allow for that.
So that's gonna go into the reserve, you anticipate?
Well, it only goes into the reserve if the board approves it going into the reserve. Otherwise, it becomes a surplus, and like I said before, if it's not used, then it can go back to the taxpayer in the subsequent year.
Okay, so if you have like a pound after that, you're gonna have to have staff, which isn't in the budget after that.
No, if our goal is to hire a contractor to deliver this service, not staff. None of our staff are trained to be dog control officers. However, if an incident occurs and it's a dangerous dog incident, our staff are going to be involved because we're the experts on taking legal matters to court, and we don't want to put that responsibility on a contractor. The contractor will help us support the investigation to bring evidence forward, but we will be working with the courts to deal with it.
So I think that's a very important question for me. So we talk about civil, right? To me, civil is I'm going to sue the person who destroyed my life. Why do I have to get you involved?
In order to collect evidence, you could go to civil court on your own.
You don't have to file a complaint.
You don't even have to, yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Yes.
I'm struggling with clarification on, kind of similar to Mike's point, but it seems like the remedy is legal either way, whether it's criminal or civil. I'm assuming criminal would be very rare. There would be a willful act by somebody, and they would involve the police and the Crown Council. But what I'm hearing here is that if the bylaw is passed, that you'll assist the victim with preparation for civil court, and I'm assuming that involves a lawyer or somebody with legal experience in RDCK. So what exactly does that look like? Can you give us a couple of real examples from other areas that have dangerous dog bylaws? So for example, if you assist the victim to go to a civil trial and there's an award made, does RDCK recover their legal costs? Like, have you seen that in the past?
Okay, so the aggressive dog situation, we do make every effort to educate the property owner by advising them to fence in their dog, muzzle their dog, keep it on a leash. When it's a dangerous dog situation and there's been an incident where a person I spoke about it yesterday, we had a child get bitten severely. That's when we have to work with the owner of the animal. And if they're not willing to work with us, that's when we have to take action, where we have to hire a lawyer, we have to hire a vet, and we have to go to the courts, file an application to deem that dog dangerous. Once that dog is deemed dangerous, then we euthanize that dog. So that's how it works.
What happened then? What was the outcome?
That dog was euthanized.
But what was the compensation to the victim?
They went and sued them separately, I believe. I'm not sure.
Yes.
Back to the multiple owners. So there's multiple owners, but only one lives on the property. Does he still need consent from the other owner? Because he lives on the property, he shouldn't have to.
No, if you live in electoral area H and can vote in the provincial and federal election, then you can vote for the assent vote. That you live here, so.
Consent, if there's other owners need consent, he will not need the other owner's consent. Because he's the only one, he's the only one.
Yeah, the only one living, yeah.
You in the back?
Yeah, okay, so you guys decide you're gonna go after this dog. And if the speed the regional district moves, before you get that dog and you can kill the thing, it'll probably die of old age. Let's be realistic here.
What's your
See how fast you guys can think.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, the question is, how fast will you be able to take that dog, and get it shut down?
Like, is there a time frame involved? I know for myself, yeah.
I can speak to that when the dog owner recognizes that the dog, I'm not sure who I'm talking to, when the dog owner recognizes that the dog is a dangerous dog, they will release the dog and we will euthanize it.
So when the dog owner recognizes that this dog is a problem, then you guys will deal with it. And if the dog owner doesn't want to recognize this dog will live happily ever after forever.
No, we take, no, that's not true. We
Go ahead,
actually,
From my experience in these matters, when the RDCK would make an application to the courts, and it takes anywhere from 3 weeks to, I think, 3 months for the courts to decide if that dog is deemed dangerous, like all the criteria that you saw earlier. And it's up to the courts for that process, how long it takes. But that's generally what happens. Is like, let's say if someone is like, no, my dog's not dangerous, then they make an application with their facts or evidence, then the owner of the dangerous dog, alleged dangerous dog, has the ability to provide evidence as well in court, and then the courts try to be impartial and essentially determine if that dog is dangerous. And usually that process takes, they have to make the application within the first 3 weeks, and then it takes anywhere from 3 weeks to 3 months to make a decision from the courts to determine if that dog is dangerous. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I read a bit on the bylaw before I came, but is there not an application within the bylaw that, let's say if someone doesn't agree that their dog, like they're following the parameters and they register their dog as a dangerous dog, is there not parameters for them to make an appeal to have that removed at a later date if the dog can show that it's better?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yes.
By the way, you didn't, and I never got a chance to ask my budget questions, but
Okay.
I'm going to skip over that and go to this. Our neighbors to the west, Grand Forks area, with an equivalent area that we have, which is about 3,500 kilometers of roadway, with their one dog catcher, whatever. That whole thing failed. They had the service from 2014 up to last year when they abandoned it because it was not working. So why is it going to work here?
So why did it not work there?
Pardon me?
Why did it not work there?
Because the person in charge of the dogs,
The commissioner. The commissioner.
the
That's
commissioner.
what it's called,
Well,
yeah.
here, can you answer that question?
He resigned. They resigned and that, and because it wasn't financially
So it wasn't
feasible.
a failed service, it was somebody resigned. So-
Well, they resigned for multiple reasons, from what I was able to discover from the board reports from the RDKB
I'm not too
meetings.
familiar with RDKB
Yeah.
process or what they do or reasons why, so it's a bit of hearsay.
But the board discussed it and they
Okay.
said that it was better to keep the money in people's pockets than take tax money from them when the service was not of any use. So
Okay.
maybe you need to look at that because maybe that'll give.
Well, we're here because of the community complaints we've been receiving. So that's a question for your community in Area H.
Okay, do you have statistics on, do you have multiple dogs? Like he says, there's like 20% of your complaints are about dogs. So some of them you said they're not, when you go, they're just, not real. There's mental health issues. Were there multiple dogs always, was it one dog that many people complained about? I would really like to know the statistics of what we're going to be paying for.
Yeah,
We
so
don't have any data that has anything tangible that we can assess.
The challenge with that is that when we receive calls, they're allegations. I would not want to accuse somebody of deeming something aggressive without investigating. Would you not agree? So how can I give you stats with something that we have no evidence on?
But you would know if it was the same dog. If 5 people call in for the same dog, you would know.
Not always. Sometimes we don't get photos, we don't get videos, we just get random calls all the time. And last night we talked about the crying wolf scenario, where we see this at times and then we investigate. Here we have not had the opportunity to investigate.
So we're spending $100,000.
The police are investigating.
Well, the police, there's no one evidence, there's no one allegations of dangerous dogs.
So they go and they interview the people. They go, the police go to the site.
Yes.
Where is the police data and the information of the specific incidents and how dangerous were most of them? I mean, this is what you need to present. We need to see some real data.
Thank you.
We don't
Yes.
have
I just would say that, from a data perspective, we don't have an effective means to capture data and I've been charged by a dangerous dog on my own property 3 times. I had one of my animals killed. We didn't have an effective process within regional district for me to make those complaints and to be capturing that data. So there is it's really that data is not representative of what's happening in the community because we don't have a process in place right now. We won't know what that's going to be until we have something that's measurable that we can actually go back and examine to see what's actually really happening as far as aggressive dog encounters in our community.
And there was a woman back there who was saying she's afraid to walk on the trail. She may have been attacked.
Yeah.
You were attacked.
My
And
kids
so
were attacked.
that
My
there's
daughter's
some
been
data
attacked.
right there for you. who
Yeah,
may-
exactly.
Like, I'm not here to sell this service. I want you to listen to your other community. If you live in Area H and you are concerned about the situation, listen to your neighbors and hear their concerns. I understand the taxation piece as well.
Yes.
I know this is not a great time.
There are so many aggressive dogs on my road that's only a 10-minute walk to the school bus. The kids don't walk to school. Their parents have to drive them to the 10-minute walk-away school bus. That is bananas to me. Like bananas. And I've called the RCMP and I called Walter. Boy, have I had conversations with Walter. And my neighbors, admittedly, I have really tried to, like me and my neighbors have had so many conversations about it, and they either haven't been able to figure it out, or the muzzle keeps falling off, or, their dogs pack up and they get out. But, there's a point where you're like, okay, like this is the safety of children. And to me, I'm so shocked that we even get to vote about that. Like, it's a safety factor. It just is bananas.
Okay, we got a few more minutes left. Anybody else? Yes.
I'm happy to pay an additional fee in taxes.
Share that with your community. Anybody else?
You'll say.
$50 a year if you're at 600,000. Like,
Collective responsibility for public safety.
So, Eric,
Yes.
if I can say a few words.
Everyone,
Can we have a little bit of silence, please?
people are still trying to have to talk, and you've already
Otherwise,
established your
I won't
margins.
say anything.
You got children?
Please.
Okay? So, with the RCMP, I've been addressing this situation since 2010. I've received numerous complaints. The complaints were, some of them went to the regional district office. The response there was, we don't have a dog control bylaw in Area H. So some of them are not even recorded. So my response to people that complain that they've either been bitten by a dog or attacked by a dog is call the RCMP. They call the RCMP, they file the complaint, and RCMP has been very cooperative. They go to the owner and they tell the owner, hey look, your dog has been attacking people. Control your dog. But that is all they can do. They don't have the legislation to go out there or the ability to seize the dog. At one time, I talked to a corporal out of a cusp and out of spite, I said, well, can you not take the dog and put him in a jail cell? Well, he really did not like that. They don't have the ability, they don't have the equipment. All they can do is warn the owner. And if the owner is a responsible owner, they will listen, and the owner will keep control of the dog. But if he's an irresponsible owner, or, 2 months later, my dog's been good, but he goes up and attacks somebody else again. So I pursued this with Attorney General and the Community Charter 49, that's in the Local Government Act, that the RCMP has the responsibility of looking after the dogs. And the Attorney General referred me back to the Sergeant in Nelson. I talked to Sergeant in Nelson and said, yes, but we don't have the ability. You need a bylaw. We will help you, and you need somebody to enforce the law of the bylaw. So I pressed further on that, and there was a constable in New Denver, which covers the Winlaw area. The majority of the calls come from the Winlaw area. And some come from the Hills area, some come from the Crescent Valley area, some come from Crestove area. The majority of the calls are from the Winlaw area, and I'm sure the constable here can confirm that.
So what happened is, I got an email from Constable in New Denver, and this was back in 2017. He said, I have been investigating a matter in Winlaw, whereby a woman was bitten by a loose dog, and a second woman had her clothes bitten down and torn by the same dog. My supervisor, who was a corporal in Nakas, has instructed me to write a report to Crown Counsel to make application before a judge to have the dog deemed dangerous in accordance with the Local Government Act. And he goes on to say, I have contacted Crown, and the Crown advised me that they are not responsible for bringing such matters before the court, but that in the past it was the responsibility of a bylaw enforcement officer. This is why we're passing that bylaw. Hopefully, we pass it or we don't. It doesn't matter to me one way or the other. My responsibility is to bring it to the residents. You guys decide whether you want that bylaw or not. It's a safety issue for a lot of our residents. Obviously, there would be no bylaw officer to bring the matter before the court, as there is no animal control bylaw in your age. So, if the bylaw passes, we'll have a bylaw officer that will take it to the court, and the court will address the issue. Not the damages. The damages are different. It's separate. We'll address the issue about the aggressive dog. And we have a regulatory bylaw that was passed, how to deal with an aggressive dog. And there's a process that we have to follow. Once that dog is dead, had its first attack, there's a warning goes out, and then there's further, the regulatory bylaw, I think you probably can explain it better than I can, but there is a process to follow. Eventually, if that dog keeps doing that, that dog will be seized and euthanized. So, I'm sure that not all the dogs are like that. It's the ones that are out there intimidating people, that are walking up. Now, what happens when they attack another dog? Let's say I'm walking a dog on a leash. An aggressive dog comes up there, picks a fight with my dog. My dog gets injured. And I'm trying to stop him, and if I'm lucky, I won't get injured. But what happens, what do I do with my dog? My dog is like family to me. Most dogs are to people, they're like family. So I take the dog to the vet. The vet bills $4,000. Who pays for that vet? I pay for that vet. How can I recover it? I have to take my neighbor, whose dog it was, to civil court to collect that money back. And that's the process I have to follow. So the intent is, my response to residents that complain to me, to ask staff to put forward a bylaw that can go to, there's two ways of having a bylaw. One is an alternate approval process where you register your vote at the regional district office. The other one is the referendum. And the request from the residents that sent emails to me, they want a referendum. And this is where it's going. The maximum requisition that we can have over a 5-year period is $109,000. That's our maximum. After 5 years, we review the bylaw. Hopefully, the aggressive dogs will get eliminated in that 5-year period, and there'll be less attacks, less costs. And generally, what we do is we build up a reserve in case we have to use that. That reserve does not go back to the residents. That reserve is held there, but that reserve can be used to reduce the amount of taxation.
In your example with the vet and the $4,000 that you have to pay out of pocket, with this bylaw and service in place, who would be paying that $4,000?
Not us.
No,
Not the
Not the
RDCK. That's a civil matter between two people.
So there's no difference.
We're dealing with the
bylaw has
dog.
nothing to do with civil action, civil court, or
Okay.
damages. The
One more
bylaw has
question.
to address dangerous and aggressive dogs,
Okay.
period.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, this will be a good time for me to make a comment. Also, thank you for that. Good lead in. I'm Craig Morris. I'm the chair of the Spokane County Rail Trail Society. We have been volunteering here for 25 years. We've had multiple attacks over the years of people with pets on the rail trail. We have pets coming off private property on the rail trail causing harm. We have had pets on the rail trail going on the private property and causing harm. We know the degree of suffering from multiple people that they have faced in these situations. We've been dealing with Sheldon predecessors for many, many years. I will say that we find that the degree of suffering and expense that we've inflicted and just how little effective the course is taken actions along the way to help reduce the problem. We've had some limited degree of success. Personally, I think the first line is still, and always the best is communication. And I think we are all aware, as we see in this meeting, that the challenges of this communication and then come along with that. Well, I hope the communication works. Having this bylaw gives us another tool in the box to encourage people to listen.
One more, Raquel.
I was just wondering if you can explain the different roles between a provincial conservation officer and an RBCA bylaw officer. Is there overlap?
No,
There's none.
No, there's none.
Conservation officers carry guns and they're trained as peacekeeping
Yeah,
officers.
they're given peace officer status in the province of BC, and they primarily deal with wildlife, fish, and issues on the Crown land.
Would they not deal with dogs that are chasing life?
It's not their mandate to deal with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you all for coming out tonight. And just to answer your question regarding your budget queries, Tom Dool is the one that created the service analysis case, and he'll be back next week, and I would encourage you to email him to answer your service case analysis.
Well, it's too bad that it's not done with.
It's all public information on the website that's out there.
If you go to
Engage.ca.
Because
all
right
that
here,
information is there.
right here in your budget, it says it's based on 1 to 2 dogs annually at $75 a day. What does that mean?
Those are penalty costs.
So just to thank everybody for showing up. And Sam will not decide whether the bylaw passes or not. I will not decide whether the bylaw passes or not. It'll be the rest of the meeting. We'll have a chance to vote on it.